it varied depending on who's speaking to. Well, Mike,
Yeah.
obviously.
Which board of selectmen meeting did it have?
I heard Mondays,
Yeah, I heard the last
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
yeah.
we had nothing, blank screen.
What the hell's going on with this thing?
Oh, yeah, they're not, yeah, they're not.
I'm like, can I can't either. I'm not sure I can hear it.
This thing is not working.
That thing's not working?
It's got a, wait a minute, wait a minute. Just got a screen.
It is now.
Wasn't coming up.
It is.
All right. All right, everybody ready to go? All right, we've got 7:33 on Wednesday, May 8th, at the 7:30 special meeting for planning and zoning in Winchester. Roll call, I'm George Clausen, the chair, Peter Martian's vice chair, John Cooney's the secretary, Craig Sand is excused, Willie Platt is here, Charlene Lavoy is here. You're gonna be seated for Craig Sandin, Charlene, if that's all right. You were here the last time seated. Adam Quaglioli, Rista Malanka. Nobody else here in the room, so there's no public comment. Any issues with the agenda? Okay, all right. So public hearing, this is number 4, public hearings. This is a continuation of PZC 24-3, special permit application, location 211 West Wakefield Boulevard, applicant Representative Philip Perez, owner Stephen Heffer. Proposal, applicant is seeking a special permit under section 3D5 for site work on slopes greater than 15% for site development for proposed residence addition and new garage. So before we kick off into that, let's go over some things that have taken place. You've got a wetlands approval here. Now, that was back in October, is that correct?
October 20th,
20th.
2023.
Okay, so we have a copy of that, and it requires you to have a $5,000 bond, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then you've got the ZBA hearing that you went through on what, the 22nd?
It was on April 23rd.
23rd, okay. All right, now you've given us a copy, Lance, of this ZBA approval. And it's not, it doesn't, you sent out a legal notice with regards to it, and what you sent the board is actually, doesn't concur with that. There's an additional, with the coverage, did that get covered?
So the night of the ZBA meeting, kind of on the fly, we came up with the verbiage for the approval. Unfortunately, in the one that was put on the paper and the legal notice is incorrect. It's incomplete. So that will need to be done again.
Well, I mean, was it advertised that that was gonna be at that meeting?
Yeah. Yep.
That it was gonna cover the coverage issue?
Mm-hmm.
You have a copy of that?
From the original
Yeah.
for
Well, for that meeting,
yeah,
for
I
the
do, but
23rd.
I don't think I have any of these files.
No minutes on
So you're saying because it says 36.2% and not 36.3%?
Well, we talked the last meeting that there was an issue with your calculations. You got that straightened out, which required then a variance for the coverage. So what I'm asking is,
So the variance for the coverage, I can address this.
Go ahead, sir.
Phil
Just-
Pierce from Condon Wolf, I'm a coverage variance was always part of our application.
It
What
was.
changed was the percent. So that night of the meeting, the ZBA passed a variance that gave us the percentage needed to conform to the updated calculations. So, and we appreciate, the commission pointing that out so we can correct it. Commission was correct on that. We also appreciate accommodating us tonight with this special meeting and the time. So we now have a wetlands approval and a variance that conforms with the calculation.
Okay, I'm just concerned, we can't provide variances here,
We know.
so I just wanted to make sure, because it sounded like it was not complete. Okay.
Well,
thank you.
just to I guess I should make sure I relay that correctly. So for ZBA 24-1, what was advertised is the applicant is seeking a 14.7 increase in the maximum impervious surface coverage. That is what was worked out on April 23rd to get that into the correct number. So this posting was not correct, but it basically addressed that that's what the application was about. It just,
But in fact, the ZBA approved
what was correct.
what we have as a final?
Right, what you have as plans, that was basically presented to them.
So you've got to issue another advertisement for this.
No, just
Too late.
what's missing is the .2 for the building height on that legal notice to the paper. So that's what we have to do again. Not anything to
Not
do
the
with the
coverage?
You're
coverage,
talking
no.
about notice of publication of the decision.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right,
that's
right.
separate. That happens post-approval, so you can correct that by.
I just,
Well, we were talking about notice of the meeting, notice to the public of what the meeting was, and so there's just some technical factual errors in the actual post.
That was
Is
for
that what
ZBA, right? So you posted what the application was.
Right.
And during the public hearing process, there was some changes to the plan based on comments and stuff that came
Correct.
forth. And then they approved the revised plan with a 36.3% increase in coverage.
Correct.
So I think that what I'm hearing is even though the public hearing notice doesn't reflect the notice of decision, legal notice, it's okay because it was different from originally submitted to the end.
Right.
And ZBA has approved that and it's been noticed, right?
That's all correct.
But
Thank
now
you.
for
Yes.
planning and zoning, that doesn't change our legal notice because we weren't looking at coverage. We're just looking at a special exception for slopes greater than 15%, right?
Correct.
And
That's
that's not changing, the slopes are still 15%, there's no
And
change.
that aspect of the variance didn't change, that was always part of it. A variance from the prohibition on development on slopes greater than 25%, and that was granted as well at the meeting.
okay. Well, we should have something that clearly states all that. I mean, you said this afternoon, I called you or texted you this morning, and I never
The
saw it.
email that I sent you has the correct information.
It
That
does?
notice
All
does
right.
not, but we'll
Okay. All
get
right.
it resolved in the next round with
Okay.
the paper.
All right.
So my question was, in the variance application, because we only got the legal notice, so in the changes in that, it says they approved a 3.2% impervious surface coverage, but in the new revised plans, it's at 36.3%. I know that's pretty minor, but is that an error, or should it be 36.2%?
Can I address that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jimmy Ty, professional land surveyor with Martha Allen Associates.
Well, let's just motion to reopen the public hearing.
Move to reopen public hearing,
Second by John, all in favor?
24-3 special permit application.
All right, thank you.
So I'm representing Stephen Heffernan here, Sultan. So I revised my coverage calculations, eliminating the west driveway. That was a mistake on my part. And so now we are at proposed coverage of 36.3%, which represents a 2.1% increase from the existing coverage of 34.2%. That's reflected here and reflected here in the chart. And Tom Grimaldi has reviewed these and approved these numbers as well, too, in addition to, as you just
And
discussed.
this is the documentations have been changed
The
on.
two pages that I've revised in the set that's in front of you.
Okay,
The ZLS .2 with the revision date of 4/23/24.
okay.
So
And then
these are the
and
plans that went to P and Z, or to
Yes.
ZBA?
Yes, this plan here, the ZLS .2, was approved by ZBA, this very same thing. And then I wrote you a memo also to address, someone had a question regarding the fill. And so, we are proposing to excavate 1,350.2 cubic yards of material. We're also proposing to import 473.8 cubic yards of new material. This results in a net loss of 876.4 cubic yards of material for the site. And I incorporated this into my narrative on sheet C.2. And I bubbled everything and put a revision date next to it so everyone could really see the date.
Okay,
And so I worked those numbers into the narrative.
all right. Okay. All right, thank you for bringing up the calculations on that. I haven't seen it myself, and it's, that's good, it got correct. All right, let's, you presented everything last time, so the only thing we had was those modifications in your pending agreements with the ZBA. So let's go around the table. What other questions? Anything? Willie?
Well, I have two questions. One, this site plan's now been changed with all this excavation. Does that mean that has to go back for inland wetlands since they approved a site plan?
No, the wetlands has approved this plan.
No, they didn't approve it with the notation on it about
They
moving so much
didn't see
fill.
these numbers, they didn't request these numbers. I'm going to voluntarily bring this plan to wetlands administratively to have them reapprove it
Okay.
prior to the issuance of zoning permit and building permit.
All right. And then, I guess we can talk about your numbers. 1,350 cubic yards. I think according to our earth excavation, we need a excavation permit for that.
Okay.
Because anything over
Over 1,000.
1,000 cubic yards needs an excavation permit.
Is that something that's reviewed by this?
I believe we do that, right?
What section is that in?
It's on page 84 of our zoning regulations, number 8B, where it's located.
I have a copy of the form. It's not too substantial. It just talks about, again, what is the acreage of excavation area, amount of cubic yards to be excavated, whether the project's done in phases, hours of day of operations, number of trucks per hour, size of truck. Not much more beyond that. It's not too significant.
All it's trying to do is cover traction in and out of,
Yeah.
we don't have, that's not a wide road up there. And there's a lot of that in our community.
No, especially if you have summertime construction.
Exactly. So,
There'll be a problem with the beach and everything.
but is it written so that we have to handle it here at this commission, or do we have just to have the application and get it filled out and filed?
We can discuss the conditions of it, but it can't be, we can't issue it until the public hearing is closed. So you gotta close the public hearing, and then we can then,
All right, so
Either.
why don't we, once we finish all this, let's then tackle that, just so we got it all covered. Sure. You got all the details, you've been a superb presenter here for both projects, and we're not trying to make it a pain in the neck, but we're trying to make sure that when we have something as complicated as it appears, that we get it handled. All right.
So, also, so that amount of material coming out of there, you've got a inland wetlands, the fencing and all that they approved before they knew that this was happening. Now, it appears to me that you're gonna be removing fill from this whole site. Now, that kind of bothers me, because if we don't have a lot of silt fencing and, you know, maybe staggered pieces going up, that if you get a big rain, then that's just gonna wash all that material down into the lake. I mean, you said you planned for, you know, all these different storms, but I personally think that with this amount of material, this much ground being bare, when it starts washing down, it's gonna overpower your stuff. And granted, you got, you know, days to correct it, but once it's in the lake, it's in the lake. And that causes problems. So I think you need increased siltation fences and all that, with that amount of material coming out.
I understand your concerns. I'd like to point out that within the wetlands permit that was approved, that they are calling for the applicant shall hire a third-party engineer consultant of the town's choosing to inspect erosion and sedimentation control measures throughout the construction process. Reports shall be submitted monthly and or after every rainfall of 0.5 inches or greater. These reports shall be submitted to the general contractor, the site contractor, and the town of Winchester in the wetlands agent. This individual shall be present at the pre-construction meeting. They're essentially saying they want to hire Tom Grimaldi to provide these reports throughout the project.
Right, and is
And
he
to
gonna?
inspect the,
He's going to inspect the
Controls
erosion
throughout.
controls after
So
every half inch of rain.
once you start your excavation, he's gonna come out and say your erosion controls aren't sufficient, you're gonna need to put more up.
He's either going to come out and confirm that they're adequate, and if he wants more, we'll give him more.
Okay. I just worry about, once it's in the lake, it's in the lake. I saw the Coffer Dam go, I saw the consequences of that. We got water reports, and this is a big thing that's gonna happen.
Yep, I understand.
You're gonna be regrading that whole thing. It's all gonna be exposed soil the whole time. You'll be taking tree stumps out. That's a lot of excavation right there. You know, it scares me.
Yep, I understand. We're going to follow the proper standards and monitor our erosion controls, and we will provide whatever's appropriate at whatever time.
Okay.
Peter? Peter?
No, the big thing I had was about the excavation. I had brought up about how much material was gonna be, and
All right,
it's a large amount, it's a large quantity.
it is. Okay, John?
I think we covered it.
Okay, Charlene?
All set.
Yeah, good.
You're all set? All right.
And
Any more?
I had asked a question, I think, last time about the width of the driveway, and that is gonna be 14 feet,
14 feet, that's correct.
complete, top to bottom.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the fire truck will be able to get up.
okay. Just
And
double
back.
checking on that, so.
Yeah.
Because the prints weren't really clear
No, it's 14 feet.
on the
wide.
prints.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody else all set? Need a motion to close the public hearing? Second, John. Any comments on the motion? All in favor? Okay. All right. The agenda doesn't call for it, but we're going to discuss the application and decision. One thing I asked you, Lance, is if you could have listed all the documents on here, and they're not listed.
The draft motion? Okay. Well, this is where we got kind of confused, right? We do have them here. Instead. But it had literally everything that's happened up to the point.
Is this a description of these new plans?
Should be in there for the revised date. Oh, shit, it's on this one. Yeah, the revised dates. But I can incorporate that into this.
All right, let me look at it.
Okay. I get to the public hearing's closed, all right. Construction is still here.
But the numbers,
Hmm.
the numbers work with that.
Mm-hmm. 1,
100.1.
100.1.
You looking at the architectural plans?
Yeah. Because those architectural plans show a 10-foot wide driveway.
That's not correct. It's 14 feet wide. It's not my plans.
Okay.
So I did
So-
look at that. If it's drawn to scale, it shows a half inch. The driveway width is half inch. If it's drawn to a 120 scale, it'd be 10 feet.
The 20 scale plan.
It will be included as a condition.
But, Peter, rather than get dragged out into that,
No,
make that part of the
It'll be one of the conditions of approval.
conditions, sure. I'm just trying to see what are the differences between these two draft things that you've got?
So, the only one, the second one just has everything listed from the other commissions. I didn't know if you wanted that breakdown or not. This one does reflect all the plans, references, and then obviously if you're gonna write in
And that's this
something
new
more.
set here?
Yep,
With the two corrected dates?
should be, yep.
Well, I mean, either it is or it isn't. That should be.
I'm gonna say yes, but I'll make sure
All right.
before I do that.
No, it's what we're gonna read into the
Yeah,
record.
Plus,
that's
it's
all.
gonna get signed tonight, so it's gotta be.
That's right, so we've gotta have it correct.
Yeah, those were the dates that Shane read off to me, so I believe they
All right, I'm gonna read the
Yeah, but we can put that in for the.
motion, if everybody doesn't mind. This is, of course, it's May 8th, 2024. To approve application 24-3, special permit applicant Philip Perez.
Piers, like a
Piers.
jury of Piers.
Okay. Owner Stephen Heffer, location 211 West Wakefield Boulevard. Proposal applicant is seeking a special permit under section 3D5 for site work on slopes greater than 15% and a variance from section 3D5C to allow development in slopes greater than 25%. In evaluating this application, the Planning and Zoning Commission has relied upon information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incomplete, and/or inaccurate, this permit shall be modified, suspended, or revoked. 2, this application is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development. 3, this application meets the criteria and standards of 3J Common Regulations, special permits, special exceptions. 4, site plan submitted as per drawings labeled as site development plan for proposed residence additions and new garage submitted for property located at 211 West Wakefield Boulevard. Well, that's to do with this set of plans. This is the architectural. That plan is dated, these been modified as well? Yes. Okay. EX 100, base date 6/21/21, with the most current revision is 1/19/24. EX 101, 6/21/2021, revision through 1/19/2024. EX 102, 6/21/2021, revision through 1/19/2024. EX 103, 6/21/2021, revision through 1/19/2024. EX 200, 6/21/2021, revision through 1/19/2024. A 100.1, 6/21/2021, with revisions through 1/19/2024. A 100.2, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A 101, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A 102, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A 103, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A104, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A200, 6/21/2021, revisions through 1/19/2024. A201, 5/9/2022, revisions through 1/19/2024. All right. Number 5, IWWC decision for a $5,000 bond and a third-party engineer consultant of the town's choosing to inspect the erosion and sedimentation control measures throughout the construction process. Reports shall be submitted monthly and/or at every rainfall of .5 inches or greater. These reports shall be submitted to the general contractor, the site contractor, and the Town of Winchester Inland Wetlands agent. This individual shall be present at the pre-construction meeting. 6, Zoning Board of Appeals, motion decision ZBA 24-1, variance approval per section 3D5C of the zoning regulations for development of slopes greater than 25%, in accordance to the submitted site development plan for proposed residence additions and new garage, and .2-foot building height variance per section C4B. 7, motions to grant a variance of 36.2 total impervious coverage for 16.2% increase from the allowed 20% by right with low-impact development requirements.
So I think that should be 36.3%.
Okay?
Is that what's on the plan, I think?
That's on the
Okay.
plan.
Sorry about that.
All right, the other thing is
That's what's in the letter from,
the low-impact development. Did we see anything on low-impact development?
So Willie brought that to my attention. The question, you never really presented as low-impact development.
It is.
Yeah, I kind of
So
agree.
Standards, which requires
Right.
low impact development. And I spoke to, we're capturing the first inch of water that hits the site and renovating it and putting it back into the ground, in addition to attenuating the 100-year peak storm. So, that was one of the items that the zoning board of appeals appreciated during the review process.
So that's why I kind of put it in the write-up, that it should be considered for 20%, which would be allowed in the Highland Lake District. Still more that, and ZBA approved
I
for
understand, but
the
is it in,
increase, but,
is it in the plan?
What are you trying to figure out if it's in the plan?
The low-impact development requirements.
I would argue in the details that it is,
It is.
personally.
Okay, all right, I
So-
just raising the question, because it
Yeah,
had
yeah.
been raised. 8, Zoning Board of Appeals decision ZBA E 24-5, special exception approval pursuant to G IV 4 or F to allow to build decking over the allowable amount of 400 square feet as per drawings labeled as a site development plan for proposed residence additions and new garage submitted for property located at 211 West Wakefield Boulevard. All right, so we're gonna say 9. We've got plans that are labeled C2, dated July 6, 2023, with revisions through 12/15. '23. EC 1, dated July 15th, 2021. This one was revised through 12/15/23. ZLS 2, 6.2. This is July 6, 2023, revised 4/23, 24. SD2. July 6th, 6/20/23, revised through 12/15. SES2, July 6, 2023. Revised through 4/25/24. LP 101, 8/23. August 3rd, 2023. And revised through 11/29. 29/23. GP1, 1/15/24. Revised through 1/19. 2024. All right, so I've made the motion. This is,
Leave it
do we have a second on the motion?
Second it, and I have additional conditions to add.
Okay.
You're satisfied with that the driveway thing is clear?
I'm
Clear?
adding conditions.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
you're
a-
adding conditions,
Yes.
okay.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, sit back here.
Minimum 14-foot width driveway, full length.
Okay, so that'll be 10. 14-foot wide driveway,
Yes.
full length.
Is there any issues with?
What are we doing about the excavation permit? Because that should be included in there as a
Well,
condition
then
of
we'll just put
approval.
it in there, be an excavation.
Excavation permit required as part of approval and before any permits are issued. As far as the hours for hauling, and number of truckloads, I think, should we put that in when we do the excavation permit? Or add it with this?
That's part of the permit.
Part of that,
Yeah.
okay.
I thi-
So I'm just gonna put hours for hauling.
Oh,
We'll do-
hours for for removing materials, 8 AM to 5 PM, Monday through Friday,
8 AM to when?
5 PM.
5.
It allows for 7 to 5:30 PM.
What's that?
The reg says
7 AM to
AM to
5:30.
5:30 PM.
Mondays through
I make
Saturday.
a condition 8.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so we
Okay.
can do that? Yeah.
Well, I think when you do that during the special permit for the excavation, after you've had that public hearing.
Well, this is gonna direct it so that there's an
But this is
answer.
also gonna control the trucks coming in, which are separate from the excavation permit.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you're dealing with summer months with people at the beach and
Anything else?
recreation programs there.
We can,
No, I'll deal with the rest of it in the excavation permit process.
I'm agreeable to that, so. All right, so then so I've got a motion by me, seconded by you, and, all right, discussion on the motion in a second? Any comments?
Who did you seat tonight in Craig's place?
Sure.
Okay, Charlie, okay, I just wanna make sure.
She sat for the first.
Yeah, no, I know, she and Adam did the last meeting.
Okay. Any comments from the 5 seated members? All right, all in favor? Okay. And opposition? Okay. So. Why don't we sign on that, get that across? Is that on the back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll sign it again. All right. All right, why don't we get this excavation permit thing squared away here so we can get this done and everybody's finished. All right, so we have no, why don't you, this is something you can take care of with Lance, maybe before you leave tonight, or take care of while we're just kind of cleaning up our stuff. Pretty simple, straightforward, but the hours of operation and so forth, we just gave you.
Yeah, we don't have a problem with that.
Okay, all right. So, appreciate your proposal and the work you've done on it. We tried to be diligent in it without being oppressive, but, you know, there's
We appreciate it.
a lot going on here.
yeah, we appreciate your reviewing your diligence.
I wasn't aware of this excavation.
Okay,
permit,
well, that's fine, it's,
Our
George.
office should have
yes.
conveyed that to you.
The 212 property, the generator, could be on town property,
No, it's not.
but it's not where we approved it.
It's in a different spot. The contractor constructed it in a different location. I'm about to send my crew out for an as-built for number 212. I will correct the proposed record for both inland wetlands and planning and zoning, and submit revised plans along with the as-bills prior to the issuance of the CO.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so this gets thrown out. Just clean up the paperwork.
We'll be in touch with you about it.
Okay, you might be able to do that one through OpenDevGov too, but if not,
Okay.
we could talk
I'll get
tomorrow.
it filled in for you
Okay.
the next day or two.
Yeah.
Get it to you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, and again,
It gets issued by the zoning commission.
Yeah, so it's not issued. Doesn't the board have to issue that permit?
They've got to come back to us with it,
That's just an application.
separate item.
The Wednesday.
It's a short ride.
My brother-in-law lives here, so.
Oh, okay.
That's good, you got a place to stay over then.
all right, let's get
He does
the,
not live on the lake, so he does live in the.
That's all right. Lake's not far from everywhere here.
Yeah.
all right,
Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
So just for the record, for the earth excavation, totally botched. I thought it was only when you're selling the material, that was when it kicked in, that you needed that,
Oh,
so.
so the quantity,
Go back and look at the language of that regulation, because you can't condition an approval on another party's approval, but this requires that you have approval before this get granted. So it's kind of like this weird cycle,
Okay,
but, I mean, I think we did the right, I mean, I think we followed the regulations tonight, but I think we should
Okay,
look at
well,
that
thank
in the
you for-
future.
And I'll be surprised if I don't hear from Jim first thing tomorrow morning. He is like that, so.
well, and
We'll have it squared away,
as
but
part of their application, I want to see their calculations of the material being removed, especially after what we went through the last meeting, their calculations of the impervious surface, that they sat here and argued with Adam,
yeah.
basically calling him a liar. We're not going through that again?
No, it's just, there's important things to follow, okay.
I want to see the calculations.
Okay, number 6, other business, continued planning discussion for parking as principal use zoning regulations. We've talked about this before. This one lists location and size. All parking areas shall be on the same lot with a building or within 200-foot walk as measured by drawing a straight line between the nearest lot lines of the principal lot and off-site parking lot, unless approval for a parking lot as a principal use has been granted. So that's the clarification you've worked out. Because we're thinking, how this whole thing came up was Meadow Street. And the town foreclosed on a property, and now it's a parking lot, and it has never been approved, and it's never been developed appropriately. So, in your reviewing this, that's
Yeah, so I looked through the regulations, I sent Lance a memo with some, red line changes to the regulations, basically summarized here, that I think, when I think about why do we want to allow parking as a principal use? It's because we want people to park their cars and walk around downtown, right, and visit our businesses, and I think, so I spent some time looking at the zoning regulations, and, the two zones that I think are really important that we have this and allow this would be the town center, residential, and the town center. So, and then Lance and I talked, and the town gateway, I think, won't get much use, but could be appropriate, as a site plan. And then, there may be some, need for it in the Highland Lake Business Zone, but clearly that's much more, specific and would probably require a special exception. So that's the proposal, but I think we can have a conversation of it.
Yeah, I mean, you think this is appropriate to go ahead and call for a public hearing, and then we can further discuss it if there's comments from people that could be affected by this?
Yeah, if the commission agrees with the way this is presented, then I would say
Well,
there's
let's-
no reason.
Well,
Walk
you know,
around.
one of my, this has been one of my pet peeves for how many years? 5 anyways, and, based on these areas, I mean, you've got 10 Bridge Street that has no place to park, that at some point, if it's ever developed, may end up with an off-site parking lot that's a standalone. Same way with the greenway, the trails, may end up with an off-site parking lot, but not with structures. So I think this at least covers it so we can legally do something.
Yeah.
No?
Well, the other thing is the Burwell property has been talked about.
That's what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
yes, yep.
And I forget what the heck zone we got that in now.
That's in town center.
I think
Oh,
town
is it?
center, I believe.
All right.
So is this contemplating that these parking lots are municipally owned?
No. It's
Doesn't matter, it could
people-
be private,
Could be,
could be
yeah,
municipal.
could be, but doesn't have to
Could
be.
be either.
Okay, so, I mean, you have all thought about this a lot more, but I envision now suddenly you're gonna get these big lots of just blank parking lot spaces dotting the the downtown.
Well, it's gotta go through special permit. Is that how we've set it
Well,
up?
no, we have
No.
it for site plan for
Oh, okay.
towns, for the downtown areas. I think, you know, in those areas, we're really,
Here's what I worry about, town center residential, because I live in town center residential. And you think about that corner on Meadow Street, and if suddenly that factory's gone, that's a huge piece of property.
Mhm.
And is that all gonna end up a parking lot for downtown? That'll ruin the West End residential.
That's
So,
an interesting thought.
you know, it's like, wow, just any space that's gonna come available or become available, or if he decides to split that lot and sell part of it, then suddenly, you've just got big parking lots all through the residential area?
Well,
That doesn't
I'll tell you
sit
what.
right.
I mean, you'd worked in Torrington a long time, and we just spent a week in Virginia down at Williamsburg, and I look at every time I go someplace, I'm looking at all that stuff. And their landscaping on their parking lots is incredible.
I'm not worried about that, it's the size
I-
of how
I
much
understand,
of
but
the
I'm just saying-
footprint it ends up taking.
When I look at Torrington, when I go to Torrington, I don't see any parking lots down there that have any, definition of landscaping, because you got plowing. So that's the thought, is how are you gonna do this and have room to move snow? That's different than down in Virginia. But it seems to me we could create something that has separations in there. We do have discussions of how we do have in our existing parking regulations, when it's over a certain size parking space.
so, but I think to your point, maybe we can add something into the parking regulations where any parking lot, that's a principal use requires a special exception, and I don't know what that, over a certain size, so maybe it's 40 cars, 50 cars, 100 cars, whatever that number is. I haven't really thought about, the size of that yet. I think one of the, because I think that's a valid point. I think you bring a valid point. We don't want, 500-car parking lots downtown. I think the land is probably more valuable than that, so it's unlikely to happen. People aren't gonna take private land and do that. And with the municipality, we have some control, but I think that brings a good point. The reason I do think it's important, though, in the town center residential is, there is a lot of historic homes that were used for one family, maybe two family, that were generational. I live in one of those homes. But now, as time goes by, they're rented, they're multiple people, multiple apartments, have multiple cars, and there's, you end up with this crowding issue. You have people parking on the roads or parking where you want to have parking for businesses. So you want to encourage people to have maybe an off-site parking lot, but maybe not 100-car off-site parking lot, but something that maybe can accommodate their needs, gets people off the road, keeps people off of Main Street, opens up those parking spaces to support a business, but also it makes sense for some of those houses. So I think it's important to be there, but I don't know that we have to allow everything by site plan.
Yeah. I mean, is there evidence that people will actually walk from parking lots to downtown?
Yes.
And people who live maybe on Main Street would walk what? When you're saying that, what are you envisioning, Krista? They're walking eighth of a mile?
So I think people will park as close as they possibly can.
Of course.
But if you think about, and I'm gonna use this kind of extreme example, but if you think about Mystic, where there's lots of things to do and the lighting is, you might park a mile or half a mile away and walk, right? And so, I don't know.
They're motivated.
Right, but,
Yeah.
and I don't think that will happen here. I don't think, I mean,
Right.
I live about a mile from Main Street. I very rarely walk down. Sometimes I do if I'm like out walking, but I can tell you, multiple times in the past 6 months, I've tried to go out to eat and I can't find a parking spot. So anywhere, from Little Red Barn to the tributary, we end up parking way.
Town hall's available.
Yeah, well, even that is
It's really
filled.
not that
You know,
far
that
either.
I mean, it's just very busy, so, you're driving down, I would park at Meadow Street and walk to Mario's, or you might park at somewhere over by Levine's or that area and come down to Monaco's. I think, if the lighting is there and it's nice and it's inviting, the parking lots are dark and the roads are dark and the sidewalks are cracked, you're not gonna get people to walk very far.
Well, should we be doing this in a special permit type thing so we can talk about issues? Now, the problem that I'm afraid of when we do special permit stuff is our commission, I think, is a good broad-based commission. But I've been, as an applicant, before a commission that is pretty much dictated by whoever the chairman is. And, you can have some poor decisions being made that way. But I think that a special permit can help us. We've got to put some conditions within how we determine a special permit. But we can consider special reasons for a particular size parking lot to service, whatever it's designed to help.
Well, if we, as B, instead of just Highland Lake Business District being special permit, make them all special permit, where the parking lot's gonna be a standalone by itself.
I would say that's
I think
a
that's the
good
best
key
thing, where
issue.
we have.
Well, I I wouldn't fight against it, as a planner.
Yeah.
When you want somebody to come in to make an application, that costs money for them to do, and if there's uses that you really wanna encourage somebody to do, you wanna give them as much assurance as you can that this is if you meet these regulations, you'll get approved. If you don't, with a special exception, it gets that kind of, the
Little
board.
murky.
Yeah, the
Oh, that's
board
what I
has
mean.
more
Yeah, I agree.
discretion on that. So I think if we really want, if we're saying, hey, listen, in order to support our businesses downtown, we need more public parking, and we really want to
Definitely.
encourage it. I think that there has to be a certain level that is a site plan, and we have really good parking regulations that talk about landscaping and lighting, and I
True.
think we'll have some of that discretion over landscaping. The question is, at what point, at what size do we want to say, we want a little bit more review, this might not be appropriate in our downtown or in our town center. And what is that point? Maybe it's not all parking lots, maybe it's up to a certain size or number of spaces, that we could, then that triggers.
What's your thought on size?
Oh geez,
Yeah, do we have to know that now? Is this something we want to get done right now?
Well, we're trying to get this to move forward so we
Yeah,
can have a
understood.
Public hearing on it.
well,
yeah.
and so let
Okay.
me ask, let's use the Meadow Street property as just a visual for us. Like, do you feel that is an appropriate size, or do you think that is something that you would want special exception for?
Well, first of all, that's never been a parking lot. That's brand
Oh,
new. There's
thought
a-
we're
Just
just
use
talking
it,
size.
but yeah.
It's
No,
just
no,
a
I
food-
know,
realize
but
that.
that's the point.
Yep.
It's never been a parking lot before. It's brand new, excavated, demolished building there. So this is the first example of something that size being available, and the town happens to own it. Has it been designated to be used as a parking lot? I mean, it just seems to be happening, but I'm not
We
sure.
have no regulations to control it, so
Well,
it doesn't have to be designated anything.
No.
The town
Okay.
owns it.
No, I understand that, but what is the
Well,
town deciding to do with it, and
I
who
thi- I
decides
think-
and all that, but,
Well, talking to Bob Geiger, when he worked hard to get that property reclaimed,
understood.
and he worked his tail off trying to get the development of
Yeah, the whole
the whole building.
Liber K,
And
right.
that's what's in there now is just a start. You know, we had talked about the grocery store possibly at some point early on. So,
Well, and just, can I just, so with
Yeah.
that parking lot, I think that's a really good example of why parking is like part of economic development. Parking is economic development. Without that parking lot, we probably wouldn't have the Axe Company because they
No.
couldn't come in. And I also sit on the Winston Area Child Care Board, and we're trying to sell the base program, the building.
Yep.
We still have the base program, it's just not in that building anymore. Parking is the biggest problem, and nobody knows that, you know, might be available parking for them. So, we've lost a couple sales, and so we've talked to our real estate agent, said, well, you know, if this is municipal parking lot, would they consider it? And they might, because it's not that far away, you know, employees
true.
can walk. But that is, you know, I think why I feel at some level we have to encourage these parking lots, because it helps fill these businesses that without parking, they can't survive. Because we're not a Mystic, we're not, you know, so I get, my question wasn't necessarily particularly about that parking lot, just
Yeah.
about the size of that parking
Well,
lot.
how many, you know, since it's not a parking lot, how many cars could be parked in that place?
Well, and that's,
I don't know.
you know.
There was
so-
30 there last Thursday for the
Yeah.
program that
I
they
mean,
had.
I would approximate as 30, you know,
And
because,
that big, that's all?
I think it
Well,
probably.
They don't park very,
number one.
No, the middle was left
Number
open.
one, you
If
need,
you were to
need it
do-
measured off and marked parking places.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
two, you need designated
No, I
entrance and
understand,
exits.
so how many would fit
So
there?
you're gonna be
Well, and
taking
so,
away
so
from
my,
parking areas.
my thought is, get some thought of what you guys think of that. And then maybe, with either GIS or maybe the engineering department or somebody can just do a rough layout so we can get a sense of what that number looks like. And then that could help guide what we put in the regulations.
And I know during budget discussion, there was a lot of discussion that Public Works, I don't know if the funding is there. They were looking to improve it, to pave it.
The funding isn't there, unfortunately.
It
We
is not
tried-
there,
No, we
okay.
tried 2 grant opportunities
Okay.
for it.
But I know there was discussion on that
Yes.
with all the budget stuff. So I mean, at some point, they're planning to improve it and pave it if they
well,
ever
that's
find the
why
funds.
we've been talking about this
But
a long time.
we need regulation before they do that.
Exactly.
Okay?
don't they have to pave that because of the material that they're supposed to cap?
Probably.
Because that, the rain garden there is not supposed to be there.
How
because-
much testing was done on the site? That's my question.
Yeah, well,
Was any?
I know
didn't
there's
see
an
any.
issue with the rain.
Well, I know there is, because that was an auto
All
body
right, well,
shop and many other things over the years.
let's try to move this
Coal
forward. So
tar,
what
there's
are we
everything.
talking about?
But we
Something
need to
above
move this
20
forward.
cars?
Well, if we wanted to continue this conversation, we can see maybe how many cars would fit there, and then I can craft some
Well,
draft language.
first of all, we're trying to set up the modifications.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, not saying that we would do it for that site, but just so we have a visual
No,
of
I
what
understand.
that
I
lot
Well,
might
say
be.
for any site, I mean, 20 cars would be reasonable.
Yeah,
Less than 20 cars would not require a special permit, but over 20 cars.
that's my thought.
I mean,
But I think
your
we should
average,
start with something like that
Yeah.
and then put.
I was hoping half that thing would become a park or something, thanks to the waterfall.
Oh, Jesus.
Open space.
and where's Little Red Barn gonna park? On John Street?
Wait, listen, the way it's going, that's where everyone's gonna be parking. Even if there's a parking lot, that's what I'm worried about. When the corner of Lake and
Yes.
Walnut becomes a
But,
mall
I mean,
or
that's my
something.
personal opinion. I think 20 cars is a reasonable place to start.
Well,
At some, once
agree.
we've got something, we see how it works. If we need to modify it,
Well, I think that'll
we
bring
can modify
out-
it at that point, but,
We're gonna advertise for participation.
right,
Yeah.
And,
get some public
But
input
I
if
have
we
one
can.
more
More.
question,
Yeah.
curly Q on this. You know where we're taking teeth out along Main Street? Now there's blank spots along Main Street? A planner's nightmare, of course, for an old town like this. Are people thinking about parking for those empty areas?
oh, Jesus.
Well, believe me, it comes up.
I mean,
People live in those buildings,
so if I'm a private property owner,
you wanna do something besides.
I'm gonna get much more value out of that building and that rent than I'm gonna get out of paying taxes on
Yeah,
just.
but there's no building there now, and
Well-
several
Well, I
of these
understand,
lots.
but every time you do something like that, especially where the town owns that one building and they took one thing down, it's on a corner, it's on a state highway, there's no
Yeah,
way in
the
hell.
state
you're
already
gonna
said
put
they will
parking
not
there.
give
Yeah, so-
permit for a
so-
curb cut because of the curve of the YMCA. There's not, you don't have
Right.
appropriate
Just won't
sight
work.
line.
Okay.
You'll give up
So-
more on Main Street than what you're
Yeah.
gonna gain on the site.
Yeah.
And I think that,
No, I'm not, believe
Yeah.
me, I'm not pushing
I mean,
it.
we've,
I think that the question there isn't about parking, it's about allowing the buildings to be demolished.
yeah,
Exactly, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I know.
yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
So I got a few comments about the parking. It looks like we're trying to write a regulation for something that exists already, or possibly, right?
Well, that particular piece, yeah.
Yeah, but looking forward, like, what about impervious coverage again, right? Shouldn't we be limiting the amount of spaces based on percent impervious coverage? And also require that we handle some of that runoff on site.
Well, see, that site had automotive repair over there, so
Yep.
who knows what they've done for testing on the ground.
They didn't do anything.
And we're gonna let that run off
There's
No,
into-
no, that's the problem, is we've gotta determine, just the site that, across the street where Little Red Barn is, that was supposed to all be sealed.
Yeah.
So that site might require that as well, but if you're gonna put paving on there, you gotta control whatever water you're generating from
Yeah.
that. And it's, there's so much stuff can be done on site now.
Yep.
And that might be one of the requirements we have in a special permit that's, a certain size, but,
And I'm not saying there's a demand where all these people are gonna come in and start building parking lots and monetize it, right? But at some point, we gotta say, all right, the potential for a private investor to come in and monetize, and then they have to provide security. So what are we looking at for a barrier of the parking lot?
yeah,
I don't wanna look at a fence. I don't know if anyone wants to look at fences.
yeah.
Like a natural runoff swale can both address two things, is one, it creates a natural barrier and also, collects the runoff. And then the rest of the barriers have to fit some to like architectural design, not guardrails.
Well, we've got a lot of
fences.
stuff in our parking regulations right now, depending on how much traffic, you can park on the site. So maybe it'd be good to really do our own homework on this. Thank you for getting this draft together on, working on this.
Well, and I
however you
think
did it.
that impervious, is already included, because we have those in our regulation. And as a principal use, they still can't, they still have to meet the dimension and coverage requirements, even though it's a parking lot, they can't pave 100% of it, they still have to
Yeah.
meet those requirements. But just to give you an idea, you guys are familiar with the parking lot right next to the library in Torrington?
Yes.
Existing parking lot, existing lighting, existing conduits. They're redoing the parking lot, taking down that landscaping, putting new landscaping, repaving, configuring. It's over $500,000. So to say to demonetize it, like, to do a parking lot right, we don't have that demand.
Yeah.
To spend that, we're, like, the Laz's in Hartford, and we can't even get them to come to Torrington because we want them. So I think we're a long way away from that, but I think that your concerns are smart, they're legitimate, they're forward-thinking. And I think we have a lot of regulations already in place that would help control some of the concerns at the level that I think we would have any demand.
Well, I think, first of all, they gotta test the site to see what the hell the problem is, if there is a problem.
And, you look at, this town as a whole, all the industrial sites.
Oh, sure.
All the railroad that went through.
Exactly.
You look at the Burwell property,
Yeah.
what's been up there over the years.
Yeah.
So any of these sites, there's
But, I think with,
possibility for contamination, so.
but with that, we should have some testing, and, maybe the areas where there's landscaping, they have to clean it a little bit more. And then they have to do some more work, and they can cap some of it, or, they put the urban fill under the parking lot, and they put clean fill under the landscaped areas,
Yes.
because we still require it. Like,
exactly.
even though it's a contaminated site, we still don't want it 100% paved,
No.
with no
No.
landscaping
No,
and
and the paved area, you
requirements.
can cover the contaminated site.
Correct, so,
That's-
but even though it's contaminated, I don't think we would say, yeah, just go ahead and pave the
No,
whole thing.
no, I agree.
No, I agree with you, I agree. But you either have to put that in your regulations, if you're gonna do it as a site plan, or you gotta do it as a special permit, and then have those additional items, you know, listed.
Well, the town center,
Our existing regs don't cover principal use. I guess I'm a little confused about, if we have a section in the regs on parking, you're saying this is if it's not contiguous with an existing site or building.
Right.
Is that, the reg actually limits it? Our existing regs actually limit their application to that condition? You've obviously looked at this, Weston.
Yeah, they do.
They do?
My,
and it's
my
weird
reading of it did.
because
Be on the same lot with
in
building.
town center, a parking lot is
Well, that's
allowed as a
this
special
language.
permit now. But it's not clear really what they're, you know, it doesn't say parking lot as a principal
There's a
use.
simple
Unless
standalone,
approval for
yeah.
parking lot.
Right,
is
but
a
it does say
principal
parking
use.
lot as a, you know, so, I mean,
Okay, so really this Meadow Street thing has triggered this
Yes,
observation.
yes.
Okay.
Does it have anything about duration of
It
stay?
is within 200-foot walk, isn't it?
but it's not it's not Little Red Barn's parking lot. It's a municipal parking lot.
I see. Okay, so there's another.
It's not the same property. owner.
Yeah, no, I get
You
it. So
know.
we're slicing it again. Yeah,
So
okay.
if it's, you know, connected to a trail, you could say maybe that's an amenity for the trail, and I
Right,
think that
right,
would
right.
be
Okay.
allowed. Tried to put the senior center, yeah, it's connected to the senior center, but if it's separate entities, they're, you know,
I mean, you've got the Elks up there with parking lot, kitty corner across from there, it's within 200 feet.
But wait, doesn't the town own the land that, on Meadow Street, that the Little Red Barn is on?
Yes,
no, the town doesn't own the land for
Yes, it
Little Red
does.
Barn.
yes,
You
it
know, I
does.
Yes, it
thought that
does.
was
Yes, it
Winston
does.
Waterworks, or not Waterworks, that it was Edgeworks that owned the land.
No.
Uh-huh.
No, they
No,
own
no,
the
no,
building.
no,
right?
no. The
Building.
town owns that whole, both sides of Meadow Street.
Parker Benjamin has a lease on the building.
On the land.
So
On the
then,
land.
doesn't this
And town
existing
owns the
reg
land.
already apply to that? Because the town owns the entire piece of property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but the town's not operating, I mean,
Well-
if you wanted to allow it, you could probably slice it, but I wouldn't.
I think we've gotta have something modified with that, what we're talking about. Because we've got issues along Main Street, and this is gonna, you know, we're gonna not be here all these years, and there's gonna be needs for growth. And if we can control and have it defined, I think we're all gonna be better off here in the future. So,
Okay, but right now, that lot is a one lot owned by one entity.
True.
The town of Winchester.
good point.
Parking lot as a principal use is permitted in these districts. Huh. All right, I mean, I guess the good news
But
is.
but the problem is, it's not gonna be associated just with that building. It could be used for what you're
The
talking about.
daycare building, it
Could
could be
be,
used
uh, Main
for the
Street.
firehouse,
Society.
the historical society,
Yeah,
anything.
so that's the,
Parking areas should be on
Freelance
the
part.
same lot. I know, but this doesn't prohibit that, the way it's written right now. Does it, Krista?
So,
The way, way it
my
exists
reading of this,
under E1A1A, location size, that's already permitted, at least on that site, the Meadow Street
but
site.
it's
Now that-
relative to that building.
Now that you know that the whole property is owned by the town, one owner. That's already,
But that's the problem, though. We're looking at this as though it's a freestanding site for parking that can be utilized for anybody downtown, not just the Little Red Barn complex and what's in that building.
so I think, if we were looking at approving Little Red Barn, and that parking lot wasn't there, we would say, hey, you know, we have some concerns, this is gonna drive a lot of traffic, and we might end up denying that application because there's not parking. But in this case, we could say, no, we wanna approve that use because they have a parking lot 200 feet away that they have access to, that they can use, right? So I think that works in favor of the Little Red Barn. I don't know that this says okay, because this site is in 200 feet of a business, you can put a parking lot there.
Oh, no, I agree, I
And I
understand
think
that.
what we're looking at as a principal use, saying, hey, we have a lot that we want a parking lot, we don't need to make sure that it's serving a particular business.
I understand, yes.
Yeah, that's what I think our whole
Right.
discussion of how we brought it to, and we were
Okay.
slow in bringing it forward, and thank you, you got involved, and
Yeah,
here it is. So should we put in there something with a 20-car, just so we can get this thing to advertise it, because it's gonna take a month to go through COG,
Gotta go to COG and everything.
and the municipalities around us have to be informed as well, correct?
I mean, I think 20 cars is reasonable, up to 20, with a site plan, and over 20, special permit required.
Well, let's start with that.
See what, well, then we can see what the public has to say,
Exactly.
and what the COG has to say. They may have a different interpretation,
Yep.
looking at our regulations and plan of
Is there-
conservation and development also.
What do you think?
Is there any specific, is there anything that says what type of vehicles parked there?
Well, because you don't want overnight parking. I mean, I
Trailer.
think,
Well, that's
Well, I
another
think as
issue.
part of the
That's-
site
But you
plan,
would
we
want
would.
overnight
and
parking. if it's
Rista,
in
that's
an
already
area
happened on
RV.
that Meadow Street thing. We've had big
Yeah.
giant tractor
Yeah.
trailer trucks parking there
yeah, and I
overnight
think, you know, so,
for weeks.
so I think
You have them on Main Street for months.
Yeah, true.
if it's a municipal parking lot.
Yeah, right.
If it's a municipal parking lot, we can regulate that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that we would wanna say no overnight parking, but,
Well, then it's for residents.
yeah, right,
Well, you've got people in the winter that can't park
yeah.
on the street
So you want the, so
during
then
a winter storm, or need
you want
somewhere to park.
municipal parking lots to be available
They need
to town
somewhere to park,
residents.
right.
Well, I would much rather have the people who live, you know, maybe like on Main Street and the apartments, parking in the parking lots and saving the Main Street parking spaces.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
why
I
they
agree.
park
Yeah.
behind, on Elm Street,
Yeah,
behind the
so-
building.
so I
there.
think so,
But they
but-
don't park there.
Right, so from a tractor trailer standpoint, you know, if it's a municipal lot, that's enforcement. You know, our police, you know, we could put
Right.
up a sign, not permitted,
Yeah.
you know, and
Or,
if
yeah.
it's a
Residents only. or
residence
something like
lot, they kind of would manage that, but at 20 lots or 20 cars,
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking someone stuffing their extra beater down there, or
that. Yeah, right.
their dump run truck.
yeah.
Also, it's not at their house, they're just gonna put it down at the parking lot for months on end.
Well, and people do that.
Oh, yeah.
They do, constantly.
Yeah, yeah. If there's a space, it gets used.
We
Yeah,
have speed
right.
limits on Main Street that aren't enforced, so, you know, it could be enforced, so,
Yeah.
all right.
And, you know, I think about this a lot when we look at zoning regulations. We put in a regulation like that. You know, Lance isn't here 24/7 to go out and enforce it. I mean, if,
No, that's the police.
right, so we
not
can't have a regulation, we can't have the police department enforcing zoning regulations. Like, so what do we, how would we wanna write that in where it's enforceable? So, but,
I just had one more question. If that 20-car theoretical limit, would that apply to all districts?
I think no, I
All the
think
districts we have listed here.
town, yeah.
With
That's
Highland
what's
Lake
listed
Business,
on the sheet.
Highland Lake Business is
Yeah, I was
special
gonna say,
permit
would that
anyways.
be- Right.
For
We're
all
only
of-
talking three zones: town centers, residential, town center, and town gateway.
Excluding Highland Lake because that's already got special permit.
That's special permit for everything.
And then the other zones, it's just not allowed. The parking
Just
has
not
to be
allowed, right.
connected to some use.
Well, let's put in this
What other
20-car.
one's not allowed?
So our other zones,
Oh, other zones? But we're still talking doing both A and B,
Yes.
not just one or
Yeah.
the other.
yep.
Okay.
And then we'll add a 1AB somewhere in here that says any parking lot, any, you know, principal use, more than 20 cars is special exception. Maybe that goes into our table here. Parking as a principal use, less than 20 cars, parking as a principal use,
Special
21
permit
or more
above.
cars, or
Okay,
something like that.
all right. Is that acceptable? We'll call for a public
This is
hearing.
me, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's a threshold thing, yes.
Yeah. I think we need to get it advertised.
I understand,
And then we
yes.
can make,
That we need to
really make
Feel
it.
like we're
think
getting
and
some
talk about it
traction.
and research it.
So with that,
Parking.
so a couple of things.
Oh.
If
Yeah, everything.
If we
If
do it it tomorrow, give it to you and Rob, we would be in
Well-
our time frame.
So you're comfortable making all these changes and getting it to me tomorrow?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Well,
Tim's
maybe
gonna-
make the changes and run it by George, or
Sure.
Yeah, I was just
send
gonna,
an email to George and make sure it's
I was just gonna
discussed the night
suggest,
before it goes to the COG.
we just push the public hearing to June 24th, an extra 2 weeks, which
Yeah, I
make
would
sure
put it
we
out
can
towards the end of
get
June,
the
somewhere
language
there.
right,
do that
Give us
too.
the timing, yeah.
instead of trying to rush and get it wrong.
No, I don't wanna, that's not the point. We'd rather have a legitimate hearing and then make a decision and then.
Yeah, I mean, there's no huge rush, but
And in full disclosure, I won't be here on the 10th. But that doesn't mean you
That's
can't
all
have
right,
a public
because
hearing.
tonight you heard some ideas that I know
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there floating around, so you're gonna,
Yeah.
something's gonna
and the
gel
COG
out of
may
that,
have
so-
ideas that want us to change things or
Yes,
something
yes,
too.
but
Which is me.
Which is you.
Yeah, exactly. You're wearing two hats here.
I do. I do try to give Rob
we
these
we
to
went by
review
you
just a second.
And he gives them back to you.
I wanted to bring something up. How do we
Oh,
do
okay.
that? We'll have that. I wanted to bring up the murals.
Oh, okay.
No,
No,
Rather
yeah,
not.
no, I think that's,
Yeah, we can go back.
yeah.
I mean, I won't bring it up if you
No,
don't.
no, let's bring it up. I think
Okay.
that's a good subject.
All right, so, but I heard Rista say she's, working with the childcare center, but I noticed that the front of the building has a big mural on it now. And, I think it's something we have to think about before everybody starts painting their buildings however they want.
Well, I think,
Do we have anything, our regs don't address that at all, do
No.
they?
So the weird thing with that mural, it obviously didn't go before Architectural Review Committee, which would have been what I would have recommended. I thought the town actually gave them money to do that mural.
It was the
Maybe
town,
they-
it was Sustainable CT.
Sustainable
But-
CT.
Maybe they did. The point is that
It should be
suddenly, it's a
reviewed.
small town, and if suddenly, like, everyone can do whatever they want
I don't,
on
I
buildings.
don't personally think that any government should approve art, because it's so subjective. What, you like or I like might be very different, So I think that's a really fine line between like freedom of, expression of self and not, and as far as art.
So you can paint your house any color you want, and put anything on it you want, in any neighborhood you want? Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, but what if you said, all houses have to be white? All
Well, I mean,
houses have to be white or black.
Historic neighborhoods do that.
Historic districts
Yeah.
have laws that allow them to do that.
Right.
But, for us to just say, anywhere in town, if you want to put art on your building, you have to get approval, I think,
Yep.
you know,
Here we go.
But, I mean, we do it with signage.
but signage is, but only certain signage, only advertising signage. We don't control political signs, we
Oh,
don't
you're right.
control any freedom of speech, like, it's very regulated with
Yeah.
what we allow, and what we don't allow.
Well, there must be some law in this somewhere. I mean, maybe I'll look at it, but, the issue is obviously what happens when everybody decides to exercise their freedom of speech on Main Street, on buildings
Oh, you've had it.
that are
Look at-
100 years old and.
Look at the colors of some of the buildings that have popped up on Main Street.
Yeah, Morsel Monk is their mural.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, Marshall Monk's had that one for many
and-
years.
Well, I've just thought as a planning.
I think it's a good, I mean, I
Commission.
agree.
I mean, you can see what can happen. Yahoo, right? The Wild West, do whatever you want. It can get pretty weird, but you're right. The other hand is who makes those decisions.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion, so.
Yeah,
All right,
and I can tell you, we grappled with this a lot as far as, in Torrington, so I did a lot of research on this with, as far as freedom of expression and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And if you create it to be a traditional public forum, it then becomes a traditional public forum for freedom of expression. And so what we said in Torrington, because this was coming up, people wanted to come in and they wanted to paint all sorts of different political things. And you can't say, you know, this organization could paint something and that organization can't because of the freedom of expression. So we just said there's no permanent structures, including painting on any public building. If it's a private building, you can put up whatever message it is you want to put up, but on a, because you have to, because it's.
I mean, I know that's not actually true, that it's that freewheeling.
Well, then
'cause
you can't
could
put
write-
hate
you could
speech,
write-
right.
Exactly.
But,
There's so many things.
But if you have a pride flag, and then somebody wants to come in and put a BLM flag, like, you can't say, well, we agree with you and not with you, so you can put your.
No, of course, that's
But-
content, but.
right,
I mean,
so-
I'm thinking about it more from aesthetic things.
Yeah.
Oh, let's have the building in day glow, you know,
Yeah, but-
orange or something.
But you got a huge Coca-Cola painting.
So that's a
thinking
pre-existing,
of
that's a pre-existing non-conforming sign, it was there before the regulations. We
Right.
don't
That's a
allow any
grandfather,
signage
yeah.
to be painted on the building, so all signage,
Uh-huh,
advertising signage, which is allowed to be regulated,
yeah.
as.
Anyway,
can't
just
be
I was thinking
painted.
that was grandfathered in the Coke signs.
Yeah,
It's
so
been
did
there
I.
for so
It's been
long.
there a long
Yeah,
Yeah,
time.
it is.
I love that sign, actually.
Yeah, it's
They
neat.
sit there in that other parking lot sometimes, and look at that stuff.
Exactly.
All right, well, thank you. And thanks for bringing that up, because it's,
Just something to think about.
yeah, okay,
Planning
One more
side.
thing I had,
go ahead.
where's our capital plan budget to approve? See, the
No.
budget hearing's Monday night
Yeah,
at
I don't
Gilbert,
know.
we've not approved it, and we have to. No,
Good question, I do
asked for it
know.
last month, and still don't have it,
Right.
so.
We don't have another meeting before
No.
June?
No, we
No.
got a
Budget
meeting,
meeting.
We got a meeting,
Monday night is the.
no,
we
Monday
don't
night
have
is the
our
budget
meeting.
meeting, but we have a later May meeting, but.
Well, that's
we-
been canceled, because
Yeah.
it's Memorial Day.
That's what I was gonna say.
So we have no meeting in May.
We
So
don't
wait,
have
so
another
we
meeting.
don't have a budget?
Says-
No, the
Well,
budget
the
is-
capital plan has to be approved by Planning and Zoning Commission
know,
every year.
yeah.
And we've not seen it or approved it. So how is the town gonna approve it at a referendum in sometime in June? If it hasn't been approved by
How
us?
did that not,
I asked for it before.
no, I know, but so
Okay.
isn't that the manager's responsibility to get that done?
Sure.
I would think so.
Yep.
But I know there's been a change in managers. We don't have it. I'm just bringing it up. So we may have to have a special meeting in May to approve it at some point. But
All right, can you follow up on that, Lance, and see what's going on?
I just think, you know, we should approve it, especially before it goes to referendum.
Yeah, did you ask me to do that before?
I asked the last meeting about it.
Really?
I brought up about,
I totally
capital
missed that.
budget.
Alright, I'm sorry. No, I
And-
didn't know. I'll talk to Paul tomorrow about it then.
yeah, and I mean, I know with everything, with our changes and everything, it slipped through the cracks, I'm sure. It's easy enough to do, but
All right.
just before,
That's a big one, because.
just in case somebody brings it up Monday night at the Gilbert meeting, discussing the budget, you know, there's gonna be a lot of different things going on. And at least we could say, yeah, because of change of manager, whatever, we're gonna have a special meeting. It will be, looked at and approved before
Pearson?
the referendum in June.
It's at Gilbert.
It's at Gilbert at 7.
What if it's not approved?
Huh?
So what if it's not approved?
Well, there's people out there that look at these things and nitpick and
Is there ever?
find a problem. It's better if we approve it. And then
Well,
everything
it
will
needs to
follow.
be handled, you're correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we could do with a quick meeting, so, my opinion.
All right.
That was all I
Anybody
had.
else have anything, otherwise we'll go to the approval of minutes?
I make a motion to approve minutes of April 22nd, 24.
Second,
Any comments or discussion? All in favor?
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. And John abstained. Okay, any communications?
Just that one envelope that came in, I think it was on Monday, actually.
All right, I'll read it.
I think it's just they're asking
It's
us
just,
for
yeah,
money.
they're probably trying to get money.
Right.
Yeah,
We don't have any money.
and one thing, I've been communicating with Lance on it, and he's gonna have Jeff look at it next week. Sunoco on South Main Street, there's a porta pot right in the middle of the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
handicap parking spot. Why they have a porta pot there when they have bathrooms inside, right next to
The
the house?
bathroom inside is only for employees.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
did
not a-
talk to
They had the option when they
staff.
came to us and designed the building, they could have put additional bathrooms in it. There shouldn't be a porta pot there, period.
right.
and not in handicap
Because-
parking space,
Yeah, right, because they
which
want to.
there's only one handicap
Yeah.
place on the whole property. So, they need to comply.
What's this?
Huh?
What building?
Sunoco,
Next to the Hartford
by
Healthcare,
the Hartford Health.
right to the left of it. So when you come out of Hartford Healthcare, you look at the porta pot sitting there.
All right, so you're gonna follow up on the parking? So we.
Well, Lance, let me know, yeah, we can talk tomorrow, give me a call.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Go ahead.
the new Sitco signs that are going up,
Yeah, good question. So we did look at them with architectural review, but I noticed there was a smaller one and now looks like there's a bigger one. So we need to follow up on that too, what they were approved for. But they did get a zoning permit for it. So, yeah, I don't know. That was a good point. I saw it today and I was like, that looks a lot bigger than the one I saw the other day.
Well, I've got a history here of people not paying attention, stuff like that. All right, so so we'll have to set up a special meeting for this capital budget thing. So let's get that moving forward.
Yeah, I'll find out tomorrow.
And,
Yeah, because the budget referendum will be within 2 weeks of,
28 days, within 28 days, it has to be.
2 weeks
Yeah.
and 28 days of,
I think you're looking sometime early June, yeah.
yeah, the town meeting, so.
any other
Don't they usually
comments?
do that over Memorial Day weekend?
No, they're
No.
not, we've already set
June
it.
1st, they're looking.
They
First
have to
week of
set
June.
it at the town meeting, they can't just,
Well,
who's,
unprotected.
Right,
yeah. Yeah, the town meeting sets the budget referendum date.
They're looking at June still.
Okay.
That was the first.
All right, anybody else have anything tonight?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
all right.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I know. The last meeting we scheduled at 7:30, Lance.
Yeah, really.
No more.
Well, we could have started with parking, but then they would have been sitting here, so I don't know, whatever, but.
No more. They're getting paid.
Yeah,
We're not.
really.
Both ways,
They had two
That's right.
requests.
Poor old Pearl, they're getting paid.
coming and going.
We gotta work on our dollars. So George, is Craig getting around, or?
Glad you guys said something about that driveway.
He somehow gets around, he's gotta have a high bench to sit on,
Okay.
Well,
so that's the problem, getting into a
I didn't
seat
know if
like
he wore a
this.
back brace or
He's got a
something.
brace he's
Okay.
wearing now,
Yeah.
he's got some things medically that he's gotta get taken.
Oh,
care
yeah,
of.
no,
He didn't, I don't think he knew he had broken something.
probably not, with everything else going on, no.
He's got a bed down on the main floor of his house, and his wife went to Florida, the daughter, and fell out of bed. He was on the floor for about 10 hours. Trying to get up and move. But, I mean, he somehow gets up to his vehicle, and he's got raised beds for planting and working on that stuff, so he's getting his equipment. I don't know how the hell he does
it's
it.
not gonna last a lot.
No, I agree. Thank you. Appreciate everybody's attendance.
Mine, I put so many miles on.
Parking thing.
You can put it in, show me the
I
calculation.
could go in all different directions.
Well, I know, because they didn't know the regulation, that's why. If they'd seen the
Vision
regulation,
just
it would
pops
have
in
been.
my head of the
Okay.
West End being this.
Over